Good evening, and welcome to 100 Nights of Taps, Gettysburg 2019, on this beautiful evening of September the 2nd, 2019. My name is Wendy Allen, and I'm the Vice President of the Lincoln Fellowship of Pennsylvania, and welcome to our closing ceremonies. The 100 Nights of Taps, Gettysburg 2019 is sponsored by the Lincoln Fellowship of Pennsylvania, Taps for Veterans, and the Gettysburg National Military Park. I would ask that everybody rise, if you can, please. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the National Anthem. I'm going to invite Faith and Glory Mummert up to help me with the pledge. The flag is that way.
Flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It is now my honor to introduce Jari Villanueva. Jari is retired from the United States Air Force, where he served 23 years as a trumpeter, drum major, staff arranger with the United States Air Force Band in Washington, D.C. He is an accomplished music arranger. Most notably, his arrangement of Going Home was featured in the Tom Clancy film Clear and Present Danger and was performed by the United States Air Force Band during the state funerals of former Presidents Reagan, Ford, and Bush. Nationally and internationally recognized as a leading expert on military bugling and bugle calls, Villanueva was the founder of TAPS 150, an organization formed to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the bugle call TAPS in 2012. He not only serves as music director and coordinator for 100 Nights of TAPS, thank you very much, Gettysburg, he serves as an advisor to TAPS for Veterans, an organization that helps provide live buglers for military funerals. Ladies and gentlemen, the best, Jari Villanueva.
Thank you. They say in the military, if it ain't raining, we ain't training. So I'll keep this very short. I have to say that we cannot do any of this without the great support. Wendy stands alongside me. We stand on some shoulders of some great people. The folks at the Lincoln Fellowship of Pennsylvania who have supported us, TAPS for Veterans, and of course the National Park Service who allowed us to be here on this sacred ground so that we could honor those men and women in uniform. And not only those men in uniform today, but those who have served our country ever since this country was born. And of course, we see that price that we have, you know, the price that they paid for our freedom is just surrounds us. All you have to do is look at one of the headstones, and each one tells a story about how that particular person did their part in making sure that we remain a great and free country today. We have these buglers behind me. They represent, we have, I think, 13 guys behind me, the folks behind me, and they represent buglers from all over the country. We've had buglers from as far away as California who come here at their own expense to participate in this program. We could not do it without them. So to all the buglers watching, and thank you. And of course, we couldn't do this without Wendy. And Wendy, get up here real quick because we got a little presentation for you. First of all, we have a book. Oh, here we go. She has one job. All right. This is a book. Since everyone knows that I'm retired from the United States Air Force Band, a year ago we put together our 75th anniversary book about the history of the United States Air Force Band, how it started back during World War II at Bowling Air Force Base and has grown into the great organization that has produced some terrific musicians throughout this country. And this little book is for you. Thank you so much. I have to give a little plug here. On the back here is a picture of some guy with a bugle. Right there. Okay. You recognize that guy. They didn't put me in the book, but they put me in the back, you know. But wait, there's more. We also like to present you with a bouquet of flowers. Oh, no raincoat, sorry. So great hand for Wendy, please. Oh, good. It's letting up. We're gonna move on quickly with the ceremony, and you've heard the national anthem being performed. As everyone knows, my big specialty is bugle calls in the United States military. The bugle call of "To the Color," which is sounded every evening at most military bases, is the call that's used to honor our flag. If the national anthem isn't played, this is the bugle call that is performed, and we'd like to play that for you right now. This is a special arrangement we did of it. This is the bugle call, "To the Color."
At this time, it's a real honor to introduce Charles Gable, Gettysburg's borough manager, to say a few words. I know in our fellowship meetings, and I'm pointing at our board members, we often wish that we had more involvement from our local government. We talk about it all the time. And tonight, Charles has graciously agreed to speak. Prior to his appointment as borough manager in Gettysburg, Charles was both the borough manager and the manager of the Brookfield Municipal Authority. In Brookfield, Pennsylvania, Charles also served 6 years on the Planning Commission at State College and 4 years on the Center Region Planning Commission, a regional planning commission comprised of 6 municipalities surrounding State College. Charles is currently serving as a regional vice president for the Association of Pennsylvania Municipal Managers. Prior to entering the field of public administration, Charles was a meteorologist, thank you very much for this, at both the Weather Channel in Atlanta, Georgia, and AccuWeather at State College, Pennsylvania. Charles holds a Bachelor's of Science degree and a Master's degree in Public Administration, both from Penn State University. He has completed research in disaster mitigation and holds numerous certificates from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Charles is originally from Harleysville, Pennsylvania, just northwest of Philadelphia. When not working for Gettysburg, he enjoys traveling, learning about history, and camping. The name of his talk tonight is The Promise. Charles.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Great turnout, even in a little rainstorm, no problem. We'll get through it. The United States of America was founded by people who were flawed based on our contemporary norms. Because of this, America has made mistakes, but America is not a mistake. America's founding fathers, although flawed individuals, and perhaps unbeknownst to them, created a form of government that demands that America continue to perfect itself. A form of government that demands the promise of a better America for everyone. Slavery was one of America's original sins, a very big mistake. The United States sought to correct that mistake and fought a civil war to do so. President Abraham Lincoln's promise, victory for the Union Army, was not certain in the early days of that tumultuous struggle. In fact, it looked as if the promise might fail. Over 2 years into the American Civil War came the Battle of Gettysburg. We stand here today at the location of the seminal battle in our nation's bloodiest war. The outcome of that 3-day battle charted the course, delivering the promise of a better America with a brighter future, a future with the noble endeavor of equality for all. Several months after the battle at Gettysburg, President Lincoln visited this site in Gettysburg to dedicate the Soldiers' National Cemetery, where he delivered the world's greatest speech, the Gettysburg Address. It was a speech of reconciliation, which began the unification of a bitterly divided country as our nation's Civil War entered its final days. Those of us in Gettysburg today look to preserve this town for future generations, as we still feel Gettysburg is that special place that speaks to a better America. Today, the promise, that noble endeavor of equality for all, is not fully recognized or realized. Our founding fathers created a governmental system that demands our continual evolution. We must teach the lessons of Gettysburg so that we and future generations can continue to work that our flawed but wise founding fathers demanded, so that the United States of America can fully deliver the promise. Thank you.
Charles, could you make your way back here? You didn't get away that fast. We present our speakers and our guests with special our commemorative coins. So I'd like to present you with our commemorative coin. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the Taps for Veterans pin. And the Taps for Veterans patch. Thank you, Charles. That was wonderful. At our last board meeting for the Lincoln Fellowship of, hi, Ron, of Pennsylvania, our president, Stephen Herb, asked me to name the highlight of this year's TAPS. And honestly, I couldn't. It actually kind of confused me, because every night is a highlight, meeting all the Buglers, and I know my volunteers know that feeling too, who are here, and the people who come every night know that. It's so special every night, so a highlight is difficult. And now, I'd like to thank our Buglers. It's such an honor to know you. I love greeting you at the gate every night. It's just spectacular. So thank you so much, really. This year, though, I will tell you that we commemorated the 75th anniversary of D-Day on June 6th as well as June 8th. On June 8th, we worked with the Gettysburg National Military Parks Ranger Daniel Vermilia, who's really fantastic, to commemorate D-Day. It was a really special program. Thank you, Jari. You made it very special. The Maryland Military Band was here as well, and they contributed a selection that you'll be hearing soon from the Band of Brothers by composer Michael Kime, and you'll, I'm sure, mention that again. And Bugler Steve Bow, is it Bow?
Yes.
Okay, gave the fellowship a flag, and it's right behind Mitch. I put it in the ground. He flew that. He sounded taps at the anniversary on the Normandy beach this year. He gave us a flag. So I brought it tonight so that everybody could see it. Extremely special. I saw a picture of it flying out on the beach, and I was so honored to receive it, and I wanted to share it tonight. So Stephen, if you're watching, thank you. The Gettysburg Foundation included a great article about the TAPS program, and I know Barbara's here. Barbara Finfrock wrote the article. Yes, she's fantastic with the foundation. Thank you very much. And the Gettysburg Foundation, she's the vice chair on the board of directors, so thank you. They also graciously created a beautiful video of 100 Nights of Taps, and it can currently be found on their newly designed website, which is beautiful and easy to navigate. It's wonderful. Thank you again for that. That is wonderful. HBO also showed up here this summer to film the TAPS program, and it will be for an upcoming pilot show. The film crew here was large. I think it confused everybody, but they were incredibly respectful and while they were filming. So we'll be looking forward to that coming out soon. And for a second year, we welcomed the Girl Scouts, the Brownie Troop, from Brownie Troop 540008, and they sang taps for us, and then it was followed by a beautiful sounding of taps by Nicholas Alexander Brown. That was a special evening. I love when the Brownies come. I know you do too. Yeah, it's fun. And now I'd like to take the opportunity to thank, this year we've had more volunteers helping me out, and I can't thank you enough. So I'd like you to come up and be recognized. Robert Thistle, please come up. Kim Thistle, Susan Paddock. I don't know if Susan's here. I haven't seen Susan. Ken Kime, Elaine Henderson, and Amy Woodis. My sister's here. I know she's here somewhere. And now our musicians will be playing God Bless America.
Just a real quick history about this song you're about to hear. 1918, of course, was when World War I ended, after America, of course, entered the war. And God Bless America, we don't associate with World War I. We always associate it with World War II and Kate Smith. But it was actually written in 1918 when Irving Berlin, who was a very successful songwriter, piano player on Tin Pan Alley, and lyricist, was drafted into the United States Army. He was born in Russia, but came to the United States, became an American citizen, and was drafted into the Army. He served with a depot at Fort Upton, which is in New York, on Long Island, near the town of Yaphank, New York. And of course, when he went there, the United States Army, in its infinite wisdom, knowing that they had a great songwriter, they made him a cook. Well, he did write songs, and he put together a show for the troops at Camp Upton called Yip Yip Yap Hank, and it was a musical review, all songs by Irving Berlin. The last song in the show was God Bless America, but it was deemed a little too solemn at that time, so it was dropped from the show. So Irving Berlin did what any good songwriter would do. He put it into his trunk, and 20 years later he resurrected it, gave it to Kate Smith, and of course the rest is history. So we're actually, last year we got to celebrate the 100th anniversary of this terrific tune, God Bless America. And I'd like to dedicate it to our performance tonight to a bugler who is not with us this evening. In fact, he's no longer with us. One of the great supporters of Taps for Veterans, and also was here for the first 2 years, Bill Van from California. Bill was a Vietnam veteran, had suffered some issues after the war, but fought back from those issues by picking up the trumpet and sounding taps at military veterans. And he was in California, but came over here. He actually set up a GoFundMe fund, website or whatever page, and raised $1,200 so that he and his friend could get the airfare and hotel rooms to come here and perform. Bill left us much earlier this year. We miss him very much. I know he's up there watching us. So Bill, this is for you. This is God Bless America.
Well, we have a treat now. I'm honored to introduce Granville Van Dusen. He's going to be reading the Gettysburg Address. Let me tell you about Granville. A good friend, I must say, now. It's such an honor to know you. Granville is currently starring in the hit comedy Wrong Turn at Lungfish by Gary Marshall and Lowell Gantz at the Totem Pole Playhouse in Fayetteville, Pennsylvania. He's an American stage, screen, and voice actor who has appeared in nearly 100 plays and TV series, portraying everything from the Klingon magistrate in Star Trek to characters in the old Beretta and Hill Street Blues series. He also appeared in CBS daytime soap opera The Young and the Restless, the ABC's General Hospital. He is probably most widely known for his portrayal of Abraham Lincoln in the one-man show he originated. He has portrayed the 16th president for a quarter of a century, starting with a performance at the Klein Theater at Gettysburg College in 1990. The Memoirs of Abraham Lincoln was originally directed by Dilbert Mann, who directed the Oscar-winning film Marty in 1955. He also performed it at the Totem Pole Playhouse in 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, Granville Van Dusen.
In November of 1863, Lincoln delivered his address to 15,000 people. He didn't have one of these. So tonight, I'm going to step exactly, the mic knows. I'm going to step back and try to recreate something of what it must have been like, lo, those many years ago. I have rain on my glasses. 87 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the great task remaining before us. It is rather for us to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Granville, it's such an honor to have you here. Again, I'm going to present you with our commemorative coin. Thank you very much. Thank you. The Taps Veterans Team.
Ken, if you would come up, and Ken Kime is our archivist on our board of directors for the Lincoln Fellowship. And every year I must tell you that he's the person who invented or originated the recognizing of the veterans and our active service members. And I thought it is so brilliant that every time he's in the audience, he's going to do it, because nobody does it like you. And it's an honor to have you. And it's an honor to have you here, and it's an honor to know you. I really enjoy working with you very much. Ken?
Before I call our veterans up and active duty military folks, most of our board members are standing, but board members, would you wave to your audience so we recognize our board members? Okay? So at this time, to thank all our military folks, at this time we would ask that all active duty military personnel and veterans of our armed forces please come forward at this time so we may say thank you.
I've never felt so safe in my life. This year marked the 75th anniversary of D-Day, the battle that set the course of freeing Europe from tyranny. And on June 6th, of course, forces, the United States, Canada, England, France, all stormed the beaches at Normandy. And this is a very special place that we're standing in, the Gettysburg National Cemetery, in that there are 11 Pennsylvania boys who died on the beach that day, and they're buried here quite fittingly, as they should be with other comrades from other wars. There was a very terrific HBO special called Band of Brothers that was produced some years back, based on the book by Stephen Ambrose, Band of Brothers, about the, I think it was the 561st Parachute Infantry Regiment that parachuted into France the night before, of course, the invasion. And it's just a remarkable story of these true Band of Brothers and how they trained together in Georgia, then went to England for further training, then entered France on June 6th, and then fought all the way up to the end of the war. The music for this particular special was done by the composer Michael Kime. Michael Kime had done some really wonderful movie film scores, including Mr. Holland's Opus. He also did the music for the great HBO special From Earth to the Moon. Unfortunately, he left us also way, way too early, but his music will always live on. We'd like to perform for you right now an arrangement of the theme from Band of Brothers, dedicated to all those men and women who were our World War II veterans. As they go into position for the taps that we're about to do, thought I'd just talk a little bit about what it would have been like during the Civil War, about this time in evening. You know, the duty day had been finished, of course. The roll call in the afternoon at retreat had been taken. Soldiers had something to eat, and then they would be getting ready for the final roll call of the day, which was the call of tattoo. And tattoo was a call that had gone back to the 12th century, when drummers would go through town beating the tattoo, summoning the soldiers back to the garrison so that they would have that final roll call. It was also the signal to the barkeeps to turn off the taps. You know, no more liquor for the soldiers. Well, in between, you know, the call of tattoo and of course that final call of extinguished lights, soldiers did what soldiers have always done for years. And during the Civil War, they would pull out paper and pencil. And you can imagine, if you look out this evening, you'd start seeing the little dots of light all throughout the camps as the campfires would start. And the soldiers would be writing home on the pieces of paper. and they would be writing to their loved ones, their wives, their sweethearts, their mothers, their fathers, their cousins and aunts, and they would be writing about, gosh, the food stinks here. The officers don't know what they're doing. I wish this war was over, and I wish I was going home. 150 years later, we have soldiers who are still overseas, you know, and in the evening, just before the last call of taps is performed, they also write home, as soldiers do. Now, of course, these days, they don't pull out the paper and pencil. They go to their keyboard, and they start writing to their sweethearts, their wives, their mothers and fathers and aunts and uncles, and they say, boy, the food stinks. The officers don't know what they're doing. I wish this war was over. I wish I could come home. Nothing much has changed in 150 years, especially that final bugle call of taps. Since the Civil War, it has been the call that has signaled the end of the day, the time when the lights would be turned out and soldiers would go to sleep. It was also a signal that the sentries would be out on their posts. So every soldier who went to sleep in the secure knowledge that they would be secure for the evening, that they knew a friend of theirs, a buddy, a comrade had their back watching over while they were sleeping. That call, of course, has evolved from that final call into the final call that is a salute to all those military personnel who served our country in uniform, those men and women who've put on, those millions of men and women who've put on that uniform over the years. What we're going to do now is recreate what it would have sounded like in a military camp during the Civil War. There would be company buglers who would be stationed along their company street. The headquarters bugler would start the call off, and then it would be picked up by the company buglers and echoed down. So for about 4 or 5 minutes, there would be a delightful sound of these 24 notes that would be stirring in the air. And that's the way that we should close out this evening ceremonies, and also close out just this wonderful 100 Nights of Taps. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here this evening. We really appreciate your support. We know that we're going to be back here next year and the year after that. So thank you.